back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today we are focused on Star Trek, the original series, episode Elaan of Troyius, or Helen of Troy.
But in space.
But in space. It's actually also Taming of the Shrew and another Shakespeare film combined.
Shakespeare film. I didn't know he made movies.
Shakespeare book. Antony and Cleopatra. I was just watching Hamlet. That's why I said Shakespeare film. Antony and Cleopatra was the other book.
I actually think there's a certain elements of My Fair Lady in there as well.
Pygmalion. Yeah, there's a little bit of that too.
So I think it's a little bit Pygmalion.
All I want is a ship somewhere far away from Klingon space. With one enormous chair, wouldn't it be lovely? Sorry, I had to. Welcome.
That's
to
it.
Ian.
Everybody's disappeared now. Sohel's sung. Everybody's gone.
Actually, the counter dropped from 5 people watching to 1, so I do think that I probably scared everyone away. But that counter's never reliable, as Father will attest as well. It kind of jumps around all over the place. But if I did scare you off, I'm sorry. But welcome back, Ian, our Dadmiral, and welcome back, Fathery. It's nice to see you. We might have Ruben, I'm not sure. But then we won't have our sub-commander today, just FYI. And dear Robbie has a job at the shuttlecraft pump station. So he helps maintain our shuttlecrafts at the Starbase.
Walk plasma station.
maybe on his way home from work he'll be listening to this on the.
Yeah, it's possible.
I think he takes the train on the
he
train
does.
ride
Yeah,
home.
you guys, that's so exciting that like in Europe the train systems are so well developed. We don't have nearly as good a train system in the United States. Although I have taken the train in California, it was a lot of fun.
Well, I think there's a lot of commuters.
In the southern
there's a lot of commuters in the UK would turn around and say, no, it's not very good. But there you go.
Isn't there something about trains running on time in UK? Like it's a big deal, right? Like they're all, you guys are like sticklers for that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's
not the buses though. The buses in London do not run on time.
No, thankfully I don't live in London anymore. But
I want to speak to the manager of the Enterprise.
Oh my God, that is so accurate. You are. She is the Karen of Troyius.
Don't make me cry on you,
We'll have to talk about roofie tears later.
Roofie tears.
That gives a whole new meaning to being roofied, doesn't it?
It does, indeed. Well, let's get this show underway here. So the Enterprise is involved in a diplomatic mission in which they have to transport... what's her actual name? It was
Elaine.
Okay. Elaine. Whoa, I hear
the Dohlman.
The Dohlman of Elas. And who is set to be married to a Troyan so that they can have peace, because now they can... both civilizations have reached a point of mutually assured destruction, so they don't want that to happen. So they're thinking, well, if we start mingling, starting with our leaders, our royals or whatever, maybe this will go a long way towards our two societies coming together. So that happens, and although she's completely, quote-unquote, uncivilized and barbaric, according to Kirk, who has some really outdated views of of societies and that are different from his own, but that's okay. We'll talk about that too. And then, so he teaches her, a la Taming of the Shrew, how to be a proper Troyan, because the ambassador who was supposed to do that failed utterly and got stabbed in the back. And then there's this weird plot by the other Troyans to get the Klingons involved, where they were going to blow up the Enterprise using like a booby trap, and that fails because, you know, the crew's pretty cool and they figured it out. But they're on a race against time because now they need dilithium. And then luckily for us, the ceremonial necklace that Elaan of Troyius has on is dilithium, a very like common and apparently useless gemstone for the Elans and the Troyans. So she
One
she
man's
gives up
trash is another man's treasure.
treasure. It's true, and so now we know why the Klingons wanted to be involved, and so we get Scotty and Spock repair the warp drive really quickly, and the Enterprise does some cool battle maneuvers, especially in the remastered edition. I haven't seen the original.
It's not so good. It's not so good as the remastered.
Right. Okay. I imagined like because the remastered version was like it was very good. It was like pretty dynamic. Yeah. Anyways, so Kirk sends Elaan on her way to get married and fulfill her diplomatic duties. And McCoy finally comes through with an antidote to her poison, quote unquote. But when he does, he realizes it was never necessary because he was poisoned long before by the USS Enterprise, who stole his heart. And Spock and McCoy decide that that's okay. At the end. How was that? Is it a good summary now? All right. What did you all think of this episode?
I actually liked it more this time than I thought I was going to. This is an episode that it's another one of those season 3 ones. I think it's just too long. It just kind of starts to drag after a while. It's an interesting concept at the beginning, but I don't know. It just seems to run out of steam halfway through. But watching the remaster with the improved CGI battle does, I guess, kind of, give it some excitement to look forward to. I still want to go back and watch the original version just because I haven't seen those in so long. I need to do that.
I can't remember what it was like.
Original series, but yeah, it's some parts of it doesn't age well. The biggest problem I have in this episode, it's like even more troublesome to me than Kirk hitting a woman, is the wardrobe on they're supposed to be like these badass warriors, and they're dressed in like these, I don't know, like these weird flowery tutu outfits.
By the way, remember Alpha said they were placemats. They'd gotten plastic placemats and just like carved them.
Yeah, if you notice them, they're very stiff. They're very like have a shape. Very rigid shape.
They have like no budget in season 3, so they blew all of their budget on the Troyans' makeup because he actually looks like a good alien.
I actually found the uniforms to the soldiers' outfits to be very cool. Like I kind of dug how short they were, and like the kind of wild and crazy like colors, and just
I like the use of the material.
Yeah.
I thought the material really looked kind of weird and alien.
Elaan went through 4 costume changes, which is the most TOS has ever done. But it also is appropriate because I feel like the movie Cleopatra, which I feel like, I don't know if it was before or after this. I'd have to look.
Cleopatra came out before this. I'm almost certain.
So yeah, I feel
this
like
wouldn't have aired until like
I think it depends
69.
on what version you're talking about.
Her look. I'm thinking of the Elizabeth Taylor version. So her look kind of was evocative of that, I thought, and I liked it, and I liked the fact that there were lots of costume changes because that's what. Oh, you were on mute. But yeah, costume changes. So I feel like that was like a little nod to Elizabeth Taylor.
3 years before.
Okay.
5 years.
So 63.
Yeah, I think this did December 68. I think this episode came out.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, for me, I was dreading this one because I never remember having many good memories of this one. But it started off quite well. It dragged in the middle, and I think when the Klingon battle cruiser started coming into it a bit more, it sort of picked up a little bit of enjoyment for me, but it was just a little bit in the middle. So I wasn't looking forward to it, but I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to.
It's kind of like Friday's Child in the way that the Klingons are not the central focus of the episode. Most of the time, when you do an episode with Klingons, they're kind of, the story is centered around whatever interaction Kirk and the Enterprise are having with the Klingons. But, Friday's Child, they're kind of set dressing almost. They were just kind of an additional aspect of the episode, not the central driver of the story. And it's kind of the same here. I do think that Klingon commander is probably like the least interesting Klingon we see in the original. It's like a close race between him and the balding dude in Friday's Child.
That's right.
Because most of the Klingons, they have a lot of presence, and they're very they're very larger than life, but not here. But he still felt like a menace. He still felt like a threat,
I think in the original I read that the D7 that's the first appearance of the D7 was in this episode.
It was supposed to be, but they actually aired the Enterprise incident before this one.
Right, okay, that's right. That makes sense.
The first appearance of the Klingon ship they spent all the money on to have like another model kit for people to buy, so you could build that model, put on the shelf next to your Enterprise. That's the whole reason why they made this. Like AMT helped pay for the special effects model. But yeah, it was supposed to be the debut of this badass Klingon ship and have like this battle with the Enterprise, but they actually got stolen by the Romulans. It got hijacked by the Romulans, and they showed it off first.
They got it first. Yeah. A garbage scow after all, which is hilarious because that's what Scotty was so mad about in The Trouble with Tribbles. But is saying, "Where's the green face?" Yeah, Ruben, come on. We have a certain level of expectation.
That would have required me buying makeup, and my whole gimmick is I don't buy anything for my costume.
Oh, that's true. That's true. So you could have mixed up some avocado.
Leaves.
You could have made a mask, like an avocado mask, like.
Oh my word! That would have looked like he'd had acne then, sort of green acne.
That's true.
I never think he looks like that green. He's like more like a teal color. He's like a greenish blue.
Slightly seasick.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah. But I liked that dude. I forgot that, like, oh yeah, I remember watching this before and thinking like his performance was pretty interesting.
Yeah, he was pretty fun.
The sarcasm that sort of came out of him was really quite good, I thought.
Yeah, he kind of reminded me of Garrick on Deep Space Nine. He kind of has something like that. He kind of has something like that gay sass that Garrick had.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Arthur is asking, is anyone who looks as good as those guys going to be wearing those placemat costumes at Mission Chicago? We should present. I'm
actually wearing that on Friday.
Nice. There we go. There's the answer to your question. I was gonna say we should petition.
I might wear it on the airplane.
Airport.
I might fly up there wearing it.
Do you think it would be weird if I flew up wearing my uniform? I think I probably couldn't fly with the Delta. They'd probably think it's a sharp object. I'm gonna put that in my suitcase now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, you take that off. You've still got the printed one underneath it. You're okay.
That's true. I should fly in my uniform. It might be fun.
Well, it's gonna be cold up there, so you could just wear that like under your shirt.
It's true.
That'll keep you warm when you get up there.
By the way, we're debuting a new red edition of the uniform. I wanted to do like season 1 was the gold or green color for the background, and also the thumbnails. So I never got a chance to get a uniform like that. And then season 2 was blue, and I already had the blue uniform from the Kelvin timeline, and now I got the red Beyond version. And I think Fathery and Ian both confirmed these are Lieutenant Commander stripes, right?
Yeah, like Scotty.
Yeah, Scotty. So when I'm engineering Fathery's show next time, I'll wear it too. So that'll be my thing, my shtick.
Your shtick, yeah.
Ruben, what did you think of the episode?
I've always had a soft spot for this episode because I kind of am in love with France Nguyen.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She's just freaking gorgeous. This episode was interesting, actually. It has a lot of interesting layers in like how, like, for instance, like Paul mentioned before, how like the Klingons are the antagonists, but they're not really the story. They're just they're after, and their part of the story is told so simply. They're after the same thing. There's the mystery of why they're after this area. It's interesting the Federation doesn't know about it, but the Klingons do. Then there's like the little twists and turns within the story of like the tears, and then the dilithium necklace, which was a little bit contrived, but and I mean, the Klingon was interesting because he was very straightforward and just all about the threat, which I enjoyed too. No compromise, no
No conditions. Surrender
No
now.
conditions, surrender now, So I like that. It's not one of the best. Again, it kind of makes me think like, why does episode 3 have this bad rap? Because this isn't
season 3.
Season 3. This isn't a bad episode. Like it's definitely not one of the best Star Trek episodes in the world.
In general,
it hasn't aged well in certain respects. Like I wrote down this one line. What was it?
About spanking? Was it the spanking?
No, that was hot. But
jeez.
the Spock, the women on your planet are logical. It's the only place that can make that claim. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, that was cringy. There's so many cringy, like, old-fashioned lines. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I feel like you could just pick, like, almost any line from those scenes and be like, this is no longer... I feel like the circumstance, the situation is fine. Like, I get that part, but yeah, the execution with the dialogue and the choice of... But it's very colloquial or of that time. It's not something that would hold up today, like people talking that way about... men and women and so on and so forth. So you could update it. You could still have like, some kind of biochemical situation that, renders you madly in love, but, you could just do it in a more sophisticated language than perhaps
you can
Star
still
Trek
have date rape tears.
Yeah,
well, it's interesting again. To look at
you can still have that. It's
one of the things I do love about Star Trek from TOS to Enterprise that's interesting is that you can see the evolution of similar story ideas. Like they said, hey, remember that episode? Because this reminded me of the TNG episode with Famke Janssen, where she's being transported.
I was going to point
The
that
perfect
out.
Perfect mate, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of the same ideas, just done much more tactfully and much more intelligently. I'm not saying it's a better or worse episode, but it's just interesting how.
I was going to ask you all if that's a
part about
redo.
Star Trek. It's interesting to see the evolutions of.
There's the
stories
one with Trip
within Star
Tucker as
Trek.
well. That's a redo of this one as well, isn't there?
Precious Cargo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they've...
Which is
Do you
one of
feel
the
that
worst
the-
episodes of Star Trek ever.
They've
But it's so
taken-
bad that it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
they've
It's like a
taken
screwball
stab at
comedy.
it. Yeah, it's true.
Did you feel they revealed the Klingons a bit too early on this? Because obviously they were saying it was an echo, a potential echo. Did you just feel... Mate, I felt that if they'd have revealed it was the Klingons after the sabotage of the dilithium crystals, then it would have been okay. The Klingons, it would still have had that little bit of mystery in the background. I just felt that the Klingons came out a little bit revealed a little bit too early in the story.
I like the echo thing though, because I like to interpret that as the Klingons have started getting new cloaking technology from the Romulans at this point. And after they supplied the Romulans with some ships, so it's kind of like an early attempt of like the Klingons like trying to use this new cloaking technology.
Right. That's good.
Yeah,
I like that.
But I just felt they could have. Sorry, I just felt that they could have played on that a little bit longer. That it would just have been there a bit more in the background, and then once they had sabotaged the engines, then and he'd sent the his communication back to the Klingon cruisers. Then the Klingon reveals itself as the big baddie as such. I think it just would have given it. I just felt that it was just a little bit too early to reveal that it was the Klingons.
Well, then you don't have the mystery of what the Klingons were after.
Oh, the dilithium.
Yeah, and that's really what the story is sort of not about, but
Yeah.
That's a big reveal to the.
I like this comment.
I would have liked the Echo mystery just to play out a little bit longer.
I like this comment from a garbage scow. After all, I think they chose Petrie for the ambassador assignment because he would be immune to Elan's charms. Probably because he was also in love with the Enterprise.
Oh, is that why?
I think Kirk's still in love with Elon to this day. I don't buy the whole he's in love with the
That's who it
Enterprise.
should have been in Star Trek Generations instead of Antonia. It should have been.
It should have been Elaan.
Alana Troyius.
She would have been tossing those Katarian eggs at Jean-Luc. Get out of our house! Stop interrupting this fantasy.
Stop drinking wine out of the bottle. Use a damn glass.
Speaking of Elon, a garbage scoundrel's rewatch partner was so busy drooling over Elon that I had to watch it again by myself.
Yeah, she's another one that I was really taken with watching this as a kid. She's one of the big crushes I had in the original series. In fact, I don't think I've ever noticed that there were that many wardrobe changes until now.
Gets a lot of them.
Yeah, she goes through 4. I should have had those wardrobes all lined up. Sorry, guys. I
love the one that doesn't
not
have
always
like
good
a
at the
side.
screenshots.
It's like barely tied together at the sides, you know?
Yeah.
They're definitely putting that what is it, the Tice theory of wardrobe to work in this episode, which is the idea that the more likely the wardrobe looks like it could fall off at any minute or accidentally reveal something at any minute, the more, I guess, more sexy it comes off to the viewer.
Oddly, I read that this episode was supposed to be an appeal to kind of get more women into Star Trek and science fiction.
Wow.
Like,
You too can be slapped by Kirk.
yeah. So
Hey,
weird
remember we had that woman first officer number 1? Do you think keeping her on the show will get women to watch? Nah, forget that. We need to have Kirk smacking a girl around.
Let's have Kirk
Keep
talking
her
about
in line.
in a woman.
Yeah, it obviously failed at that mission.
Yeah, I'd be curious if the women watching our show right now in the live audience, what their reaction to some of those moments were in this episode.
You know, it's kind of interesting though. I know there's the obvious kind of like, you know, masculine issues, but it's interesting too the idea of the woman's tears having this power, where you have those toxic relationship where the woman is really the abusive one, and she manipulates the guy by crying and by being very by manipulating his emotions with hers, using hers. You know, so I thought that was an interesting also dynamic that kind of gets lost in the obvious.
It gets lost because they use too many stereotypes of like.
Because there's just too much of the other stuff.
They're using too many stereotypes on top of it. Like I read, it's called the Dragon Lady stereotype. It's like a Asian stereotype of the very strong and like very like powerful. Aggressive woman, but what she really wants is to be submissive, and like, you know, so that's like obviously what happens because after what's that, she wants to be spanked or whatever, and so, you know, that's like,
yeah, it's like a brat and a dom relationship,
right?
Like you have someone who like wants to act real bratty so that they can be punished for it.
Right. Well, there's a difference when it's a kink and when it's a stereotype. But yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, to each their own with those kinks. Like I love a good kink.
Oh, that's cool. Read Arthur's comment there.
Let's see here. Arthur says Shatner and Franz Gwen were co-stars on Broadway a few years earlier. This was a big reunion episode back then. Oh, that's really cool. I did not know that.
Actually, I like Cake is Eternal's comment just above.
Oh, well, let's see. Well, first, a garbage cow says Elon eats huge green spray painted chicken parts in the Nexus. That's so true. That's
she was
so great.
straight up eating painted chicken.
A human trafficking episode to attract women. Oh my goodness.
She gained like 30 pounds, but all in her stomach.
It's so true. That's how they were attracting women. It's a human trafficking episode.
You want to eat green chicken?
Oh my
green
goodness.
chicken and arranged marriages. Yeah,
We have a very
it's never going to go well.
Yeah.
I still can't see how this episode would attract women to watch Star Trek. I can't see it myself.
Jill says Shatner and France had such a passionate embrace. I really bought it. Maybe because they were comfortable with each other. Yeah, I'd like to see. There's a lot of fun BTS images where people are having a laugh and stuff like that on TOS. I'd like to see that. I read that John Meredith Lucas, the writer of this episode, was also the director, and that's the only time that's ever happened in Star Trek. I find that hard to believe.
That was the first time.
Oh, it was the first time. Okay.
It won't happen again until Star Trek 2, when Nicholas Meyer
wrote
and directed The Wrath of Khan.
Okay.
But I don't even think he got credited for writing it, because he did the final draft. But
Oh, that makes sense. But what about on TV? Do we ever get another writer director? Like, did Brandon Braga or any of these guys ever direct?
No, that's a good thing. Like some guys have written and directed in recent years, like Akiva Goldsman and Alex Kurtzman, but they've never. Well, let me think. They might have a partial credit on an episode they directed, but it was never solely written and directed by any of them.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I guess unless it's like, yeah, you're right. Like they kind of write in a team. Usually, like you see, like Alex Kurtzman directed, but then it's like Alex Kurtzman and Heather Caden or someone wrote the episode. So yeah, I've seen that. But yeah, worth researching.
Who has the writing credit on The Undiscovered Country?
Let me see here.
Because I think it was a story by Nimoy and Nicholas Meyer, and then directed by him. But I don't know who has like the official writing credit.
I thought it was Nicholas Meyer.
It just says Leonard Nimoy story, Lawrence Connor story.
So yeah, so they were still bringing in another writer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, like when it was like solely credited, like written and directed by the same dude. Yeah, I don't know if that's ever. This might be the only example of that.
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. I thought, and so I feel like that needs to definitely happen, like where someone needs to write and direct an episode of Star Trek. Maybe it could be one of you guys. Let's see here. In my opinion, the biggest security risk to the Enterprise is Kirk and his hormones. No, he never will betray the Enterprise. until
surprise is his one true love.
As a woman, I really am not a fan of forced marriage. That was the worst part for me. It was depressing that she couldn't avoid her fate. Yeah, it's true.
I mean, as you said, this, Helena Troy, all these ones. There's, through time immemorial, there's been lots of stories where there's been the marriages of unions of warring families and kingdoms. It was done so many times. I mean, even in medieval times, still, because you had in this country and Holland and France and Germany, it happened for a lot in medieval times.
Oh yeah, as recently as like World War One. Like in World War One, wasn't the King of England, the Kaiser of Germany, and the Tsar of Russia were all like cousins or something?
You've been watching The King's Man, haven't you?
I haven't seen the new one yet.
Well, it actually goes on about that story where they are all cousins. Yeah,
yeah,
but yeah, it does show that. Yeah,
a clever way.
Yeah.
I wonder if there is a sequel apparently that checks in on Elaan in the books. So I haven't read that, but it'd be interesting to see what ends up happening. I have a feeling she ends up being in charge. Elaan's not gonna mess around. It would have been neat also if similar to The Perfect Mate, Elaan couldn't give her bonding, instead of making the tears like a manipulative thing, maybe it's like something like a form of bonding, and like maybe she can't give that bond to her new mate, so forever Kirk and she will have this thing. That might have been an interesting thing as well to kind of like counteract the cringiness, maybe, I don't know. Make it a little more of a romance. But yeah, I felt the way it was filmed and presented, she purposely cried to subdue Kirk. Like that was on purpose. It was a trap.
How often does she do that? Like, is that how one becomes the Dohlman of the planet? Like, you just make everyone fall in love with you with your tears? Is that like why Crichton right? Her
Yeah,
chief guard. Is
her
that why
chief
he loved her?
guard,
Like,
yeah.
did she use the tears on him at some point, and then he was just like
The-
stuck in love with her?
The tyrant of that planet made everybody watch Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. And it was just like, so that's how he took control.
That's an interesting question. Yeah, that's an interesting question. Like maybe even like you can we didn't really delve too deep into either of the societies, but it would have been neat to find out how it's structured. Is it a matriarchal society in fact, but then they have like these limitations, like what's happening to her, like, what is the purpose of the tears in their world? Like how does that work?
In their evolution.
Yeah. I got the impression that all women of
it seemed to be with McCoy, the way McCoy spoke, that it was all the women had that
ability.
Power
So
with the tears, it did seem that way.
I
The
would
thing
have
that
liked
got me
it
as
if
well
they...
when they kept.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
When they were saying when they every time they mention Crichton, my mind keeps going back to Red Dwarf. I'm sorry, because you've got one of the main characters, which is the robot, which is Crichton.
The android man, right?
I think of
the android. So yeah, every time Crichton came up, my mind went straight to Red Dwarf.
Ruben, you think of Farscape? There's a Crichton character on there.
John Crichton is the main character.
Oh, John Crichton. I thought of Michael Crichton.
Isn't the dude who wrote the Jurassic Park
Yeah, Jurassic
books?
Park.
Yeah, Michael Crichton too.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought on this. What was I going to ask? Oh, it was about Crichton, I feel. What was his... it wasn't clear to me. I only just watched this episode today, but it wasn't clear to me what the whole arrangement was with the Klingons. Did we get a reveal as to like why, like how did the Klingons factor? Because some folks are asking in the audience too.
He went to the Klingons because he was mad that the woman he's in love with was getting married to the Troyans and go off and live on their planet. So he betrayed their whole solar system, I guess, to the Klingons.
Gotcha.
I mean, the thing is,
that's probably how they learned about the dilithium crystals.
The dilithium cache.
Yeah, and when you think about it, obviously they were a warrior race as well, so they probably thought that they would be more aligned with the Klingon Empire anyway, because the Klingons are warriors as well. So he probably thought, a lot of them probably thought that we would be better off with another warrior race with the Klingon Empire than they would with the Federation.
The Elas, that's what the species is called. I remember just now. The Elas. They who would win in a battle? Do you think the Elas or the Klingons? The Elas with their rubber
Klingons
and their plastic.
Klingons.
This episode shows how advantageous it is to have warp engines in combat, and they don't have warp drive in the solar system.
That's right.
So that's why
they had nuclear powered ships, didn't they?
Only nuclear powered. So they didn't understand the advantage of dilithium crystals. That's why they thought they were just like worthless crystals.
Yeah, it's true. That's a good point. Good. That's good. That's good like stuff. That's actually good. Some of the, I like that. Let's see here. She probably had 100 in love with her. She could take a spray bottle.
She's lucky dilithium doesn't give off radiation. Kirk, my skin, it's itchy.
It does give off. It does actually give off a radiation, right? Like that's what we find out in Discovery. But I guess it's not harmful.
Well, I guess it's not really a power source. It's just
no, it's not. It's a regulator. But I felt like in Discovery, because they said dilithium becomes inactive, so it implies to me that there's some kind of like field or energy that it innately produces that gives it its properties to bend or whatever it does to matter and antimatter to regulate the flow.
They don't really establish what dilithium does in the original series. It's in the Next Generation for people who want like the super technical details. But they establish in TNG that dilithium regulates the matter antimatter
reaction
intermix.
Yeah, the intermix. Yeah, it's kind of cool. I would squirt gun. I would like a squirt gun of those tears to get some governments in line. Oh geez, like, could you imagine if TOS? Oh, by the way, Ruben, earlier you were asking like, about season three's reputation. I do think three takes a huge tonal shift from season 1 and 2, where I felt like season 1 and 2 were more like similar in tone, like, and season 3 tends to go a little over the top, I think, but I love it personally, but I think that's like the big thing that comes up.
There's just fewer like bangers in season, like your like
Well,
all-time greats aren't as typical, and you also have like more stinkers than you have in 1 and 2.
I think people are harping more on the fact that there's less money in season 3 because that's obvious.
Yeah, I mean,
What
that
they
doesn't
do
help
with that
either,
less
but...
money is just as good as what they did pretty much any other season to me.
But I mean, like last week
Go
with
for
the
it.
empath, like, you know, that's a big snoozer in a lot of people's opinions. This episode, I think a lot of people do like struggle with this one. I mean, I've struggled with this one in the past, certainly. There's a few coming up, like well, we'll get to them when we get to them. But yeah, there's still some good ones coming up, but there's some bad ones before we finish this.
I think next week with the Garth of Izar. I think the next week's with the Garth of Izar.
Oh, we're at that one finally.
Yeah.
Well, we won't be doing that next week.
Well, in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
No,
2 weeks.
well, in 2 weeks. But the next, whenever we do the next one, that's the episode we'll be doing. Yeah.
We have another question, which is, where did they get the new antimatter pods when they rebuilt the warp drive with the new crystals? I said they didn't need to explain it they didn't explain it on the show so that Scotty could keep his reputation as a miracle worker. But I have a feeling that Scotty was able to undo the sabotage to a degree. I just had to say it. He was able to undo the sabotage. But he just needed dilithium. So that was my impression. What did you all think?
I mean, the dilithium was burnt out.
They screwed up in the writing. That's it. I didn't understand why. It doesn't really. It's not really clear how bad the damage of the sabotage is because it sounds much worse than just getting new crystals. But then they get new crystals.
By the way, McCoy says to Spock, "Are you out of your Vulcan mind?" And he says that again to him in Star Trek 2. So there's a little connection there.
I think the one that gets me is, why do they not have some spare dilithium crystal? You know, because normally, you know, if anything's going to be a problem.
Discovery has? Did you see how much Discovery has in the dilithium hold?
Oh yeah, they had like that huge cavern.
They have like a cavern.
Well, it makes sense. It made sense for them to have it because they were a science ship with this experimental spore drive. So if they accidentally like spore jumped far away and they needed a lot of dilithium to get back, they would have it at least.
Right, there you go. That's good.
Yeah, but it always seems that the Enterprise never has enough. It's been a couple of times where it's gone and you're thinking...
We could also be living in a time of scarcity for dilithium, perhaps. Like, maybe the dilithium mines are now under... Like, maybe the Klingons have a monopoly on it or something, or the Romulans.
I want a whole prequel series now based on the guy who discovered the use of dilithium.
The novels have touched on that for Earth. It was someone discovered it on one of the moons of Saturn.
On Io.
Was it Io?
Yeah. Which, in Star Trek Picard, apparently we humans discover microbes that may be sentient, or that could have been sentient on Io. It could be the midi-chlorians. Anyways.
I hope not.
Was Crichton taking a blow up the ship, or just to slow it so the Klingons could capture Elan?
Well, no, apparently they were trying to blow it up because they were trying to bait the Enterprise into warping.
Oh, true.
Yeah, it was a suicide mission for
so
me.
Crichton's next move... No, well, Crichton's next move might have been to get Elan and get on a shuttlecraft if he hadn't been caught. Maybe he was going to
beam over to the Klingon ship.
Yeah, or beam over to the Klingon ship.
Klingons wouldn't have been there after over.
But then he got caught, and then he harikiri'd himself with a phaser.
What's got me is how they were allowed to keep their phasers as well, because normally they would take them off
confiscate them.
Yeah.
And then Cake says, "Yeah, I got the impression that it was completely destroyed. Like when a battery leaks all over your electronics, you can't just swap out the batteries." Scotty can do some amazing things with like chewing gum, a paper clip, and like
He MacGyvered it.
he totally MacGyvered it.
MacGyver it.
He totally MacGyvered it. I 100% believe that. I'm okay with that kind of thing. That's like just par for the course when it comes to Star Trek. I wanted to talk about the battle before we end. I just really loved. I feel like this is a definitive episode in terms of like that submarine naval battle language and the scenes. Like I think in the remaster, I can't remember the original, but in the remaster, the scenes of the battle match really well with what's going on with like the orders that Kirk is giving. Like pivot here and number 4 and the concept of the number 4 shield and the number 2 shield, like how the shields are like. It was very like it was very well done in terms of explaining this thing, and I felt like I was in it. Like I felt like I was experiencing it, and I feel like now I know where all the like this is kind of like one of those battles that like you see them make fun of a lot later on. Like you
Who
see
makes
this
fun
come
of
up
this?
like no, just like whenever they do a battle on Saturday Night Live or something, it's similar kind of vibe. It's like, oh yeah, hard to port, hard to like there's a lot of maneuvering going on, and I feel like that's like where it comes
Isn't
from.
there?
Like
Isn't that like whenever they're in combat in Star Trek? Aren't they always like?
But this battle
moving the
seemed more
ships?
like, didn't this feel like the longest one so far that we've seen? Like, at least to me, it felt like very like, it reminded me, again, going back to Star Trek 2, it had that vibe to it. Like a lot of these like Kirk doing these commands and maneuver, saying like, do this maneuver, or like, put this much power into the shields, put this much power into torpedoes, full spread. Like a lot of the language that we later see over and over, I feel like this was where it kind of like solidified. But I don't know, maybe that's just an impression that I have that's wrong.
I think this is the episode really where the remastered is superior, because I watched the original today, and the remastered effects on this really did help that side of the story. It was slightly lacking in the original bit, so they actually ramped up the actual feel of it with the remastered effects. It was a lot better.
I think it is
the original effects.
It's definitely like a treat to get to watch the remastered effects on here, and I'm so glad that we have that now. But I think there is kind of a certain charm to the way they did it with their limited abilities in the 60s, where it's more tell not show when Kirk is saying pivot, keep our forward shields facing, and you don't really see all of the action of what's going on. You just get like the same shots of the D7 and the Enterprise, but you kind of have to like use your imagination, right. And you get the feeling like you're there on the bridge of the ship. These people aren't watching the battle like we are. Like they're experiencing it by what people are saying to each other on the ship and what's going on, and there is kind of a kind of an immersive experience you can get from that. But I'm so glad that it was eventually visualized the way that they did in the remaster, and we can see that now.
It made me want to play the Star Trek Online.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah.
That's a big thing in the ship combat.
Side.
There, you have to
your one shield's going down. You kind of
your
turn
ship,
the ship so the other shield takes the hits.
Your port shields are down, so you turn so your starboard side is facing.
Or or you could do dorsal or ventral and stuff like that too, like in Nemesis. That's another good battle that's kind of like very intricate like that.
Dorsal and ventral are your top and bottom, right?
But the shields, you can rotate power to the shields on any of those fronts.
Yeah, well, the game only has four sides.
Yeah, it's kind of a 2D combat.
Yeah. Out of the effects, though, the one thing that I did find strange, they did it both in the original effects and this one, was the Klingon phasers coming out of the warp nacelles.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, I think
That I found that very, very. I mean, they did it in the original bits, and they obviously carried that over when they did the remastered. But to have the phaser coming out of the warp nacelles was very, very strange.
I think the emitters are on the warp nacelles, but like
they're like above them, aren't they?
Yeah, they're like right above them,
right
so
above.
it always looks like it. But it is a little close. Klingons play things, they like the
loose,
danger,
fast and loose.
Originally that the torpedo port in the front, kind of like on the nose of the ship, when Matt Jeffries designed the D7, I guess for this episode. That was originally going to be that was supposed to be the deflector.
That's what I wondered about.
And then in the motion picture, when they did the effects there, that's when they added the torpedo coming out of there. And we're like, no, it's a torpedo port.
That's interesting. And now, that makes sense. That's interesting. That's cool. Yeah, it makes sense that it would be the deflector because it's like right in the front of the ship, and it has that similar design of like like a thing in the hull, like a.
At least it had a deflector, unlike the Reliant.
Yeah.
The Reliant's deflector was shielded by the hull. You didn't see it. It was there. It's just behind the hull. That's it. There you go. They're trying a new design.
Deflector shields all over it.
Oh yeah, it's like a tiny little deflector shield. The whole Reliant is a deflector. That's like the entire ship. No, you're right. That's interesting. They could have easily put one in though. I feel like something that looked like a deflector, like in the Enterprise, the NX-01. In the forward, they could have done a cutout. That would be a neat retcon.
Oh, we should have talked about that last night when we were talking about the NX-01. How cool that deflector is on the front of the saucer. I always thought that was cool.
Yeah, I always thought that was cool too. We have another question from real quick, standing in for Sub Commander. Jill says that tonight's TOS Saturday Night Live tweet watch party is Arena. So
that's a great episode.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Brilliant episode.
How would Elaan being dead help the Klingons capture the system? Well, I don't think that. I think it's two different things. Yeah.
The peace between the two.
That's right.
The peace between the two would never happen. That means that the system would be destabilized, and the Klingons would walk in with that bit and take over the two planets, because obviously they had the superior power in that one. So they would keep fighting. The Klingons would come in and just and take over. So that's how that would. I see that would happen. Yeah.
A few little tidbits I liked was seeing Uhura's quarters. That was neat.
You think Uhura?
I did like the bit that she got anti. Yeah, I like the bit. Yeah, I like the bit where where she said she wasn't happy with the quarters, and you could see the sort of how off put Uhura was.
Yeah,
they're my quarters, and Kirk goes, "Yeah, well, I understand where you're coming from on that bit." It's near the start of the episode where you could see in her face that she was not happy that Elaan was going these quarters and awful.
Yeah, it's true. I wonder if she was bunking with like another crew member, like Christine or something.
No, I like to think that she kept going around trying to sleep in different parts of the ship, but like they were occupied.
That's like a whole B story. Yeah, if this was a TNG episode, they would have made that B story. She like goes up the catwalk into the warp nacelle and tries to like sleep up there, like just
somehow
going all around the ship.
Day, wherever she ends up sleeping is where she needs to be to save the day.
The like story. Spock shows up in there to like practice his loot. And like that's keeping her awake, so she has to go find somewhere else.
That was a cutout scene in this. They had Spock playing the Vulcan lyre to keep Elaan calm, and it was filmed in the Arboretum, but they cut that out. That's funny.
Well, we'll see him play it again in the show in The Way to Eden.
In The Way to Eden, that's right.
So I think it's episode 21.
Yay, brother!
Another awesome fucking episode of season 3.
Yeah, I think that's season 3, episode 21. So we'll get there in like 3 months.
Yeah, he's playing the lute, and that girl's playing the bicycle wheel. Yeah,
that's right.
I'm thinking of like how you could make an episode about like the Klingons' plan for the solar system, and it could like parallel like real world like. Currently the Ukraine situation is you have the Klingons like they like declare like, oh, this planet here, like we recognize like they're independent from the rest of the solar system, so we need to like go invade and to help them like get their sovereignty. And then they say that we have to like Romulify the Troyans. They're like under Romulan influence, and then you have like the Klingons like attack them.
There you go. Well done. Oh wow!
When I was like
Cake
10,
is eternal.
10 years old, I wrote down the lyrics to the song from Eden.
And you remembered it to this day.
Oh yeah,
I love it. So Elaan has love potion tears, and Spock has a snake charming loot. Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the one.
That's a super villain team right there.
I wish they had done something really alien with Elaan, and maybe she could projectile shoot tears out of her eyes at people as like a defense mechanism. She just like, it's like her tear ducts projectile shoot the tears at you.
Or maybe she has little tiny tubes connected to her tear ducts into a head device with little cannons that just draw out the tears. She doesn't even need to cry anymore.
Well, let's come up to the end of the show.
To constantly drink water. Hydrate.
I think we've said all we can about this episode. Let's come up to the end because we're gonna have a little bit of a break, and then we're gonna go over to Text Trek to talk about Strange New World. I'm so excited.
Yeah, about
Father,
39 minutes.
Yeah,
we're going to be live over on the Text Trek channel. If anyone wants to come check that out and talk about some Strange New Worlds, we have, 11? No, that's not right. Do we have 11 character promos? 9. It's 9, right?
9 character promos, yeah. They just dropped Pike today. Save the best for last, as you said in your tweet.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we have Uhura and Ortega and Leon and Hemmer and Mbenga and Chapel and Una and Spock and Pike. So that's going to be a lot of fun to talk. You add it all up and you have like a long 4.5 minute trailer. So there's a lot to parse. And this is the kind of the first time we're getting introduced to some of these characters that we don't know. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to discuss with us. So be sure to come over to Text Trek.
Yeah, let's head over there next. Cake is Eternal says, Ruben, they could add that to the Dyson headset, which means Cake watched Starfleet Boy After Dark. So yeah, that was some, we were talking about this April Fool's thing that's not actually an April Fool's thing on After Dark. Ruben, what have you got going on in your world? Tell folks how to find you.
At rmartian on Twitter, ruben-writes.com on the interwebs. And yeah.
Nice. That's where you can find him, but you won't find him on our Picard conversation tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. So I hope you'll tune into that, folks. Ian, what have you got going on Dadmiral_UK?
Wait, we didn't do scores yet, right?
Wait, I know. We'll do the scores. We'll save it for the end. You're right. We didn't do the scores. Give us your rating right after Ian.
Yeah. I'm still migrating. A lot of the videos. What I've done is to sort of introduce it now. I'm doing some. It started off as just like a verbal introduction, and now I'm actually doing video introductions now to the videos to say that it's this and there, and apologising for the sound and everything else. But so it's a slight re-edit of the videos, but they're going out. I'm putting out a couple a week at the moment. I've got about four build videos. I'm then going to completely redo the cruise videos, and then I can start doing, as I said, that one, and that's going to be the first proper one, which is the review of the Blue Bricks Enterprise A, which I am looking forward to. I've got some concepts of what I want to do. I've done a partial script, and so that should be coming out in a couple of weeks' time.
Go subscribe to Dadmiral_UK on YouTube.
Yeah, please, because I am 25 away from 100 subscribers already.
Let's do it. Then you can claim your channel name at 100. So
I can claim my channel name. That's the one. That's what I'm waiting for, is to get the channel name.
That's rad. I give this episode an 8. I really enjoyed it. It was really cool. What was your rating, Fathery?
I give this rating 3 date rape tears out of a dilithium necklace.
There you go.
Yeehaw!
And Karen of Troyius, what do you give this episode?
Let me tell you, I give this episode a Kirk spanking.
And Admiral, what's your rating for this episode?
I'm going to give it a 5.5.
All right, there you have it. And we got a 6 from the audience. Audience, tell us what you thought, and head over to Tech Trek. Live long and prosper, everybody, and we will see you